another episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now. Today we have Kathy Hood with us, and she's going to talk to us about a journey that she's been through and how do you really get through some bad situations. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for coming and sharing your story.
My pleasure.
You know, it's the heart of the show to hope that we can share some joy and hope with someone else.
Absolutely.
So would you share with the audience a little bit about your journey?
Okay, cool. Well, my name is Kathy Hood, and I am CEO of Marvelous Light Empowerment Association. And when I got started with Marvelous Light, one of the things that I ran across, well, you know, we never really run across anything. It was divine.
Invented.
Yeah. About discovering my gifts. And so during that time, I was in a bad marriage. It was horrible, actually. And but at that time, when I realized that after about 5 years, there was nothing that I could do to change him. However, what I realized at the time was then that God was actually doing something to change me. And and I've always had this attitude or this personality that, you know, if it's not working for me, then it's not a go, you know? And so, and what I realized that God just had me to just step back. And when I discovered my gifts, discovered who I am, how he divinely made me, is how I was able to get through that process. So actually, we were married we actually dated for 10 years because marriage was off the table for me. I'm like, no, never mind. And then we married. We were married for 12 years. And it was such a horrible 12 years, but I grew so much during that time. And I tell people all the time, nope, it wasn't that I was so in love that I just had to stay in a situation. But it really was a place where I really grew. And he had a drug addiction problem. And so just understand that, because I was naive. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about a person or people with addictions, right? Mm-hmm. So I went through that process thinking that was something that I could help him with, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized that I couldn't. And so my daughter was like, Mom, you know, Grandma is like, this is not the person she knows. Why are you still in this situation? And the only thing that I could tell her was that it was a spiritual thing. And so I finished out the 12 years, right? Like the woman with the issue of blood, right? And in that process, when we divorced, I actually saw God just do some things in his life, restored him. So it wasn't just for me. It was in a place of really you laying down your life for a friend, right? Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't a bad person. Mm-hmm. He just had a bad situation, a bad thing happening in his life, right? And so, but after 12 years, we divorced. He went through his journey. I went through mine. And 5.5, 6 years later, we remarried. And because I watched the restoration, I saw God do some things in his life. And so this year we've been married 10 years.
Wow. You know, when I hear stories like that, you know, I think it's such a beautiful thing mm-hmm. when you're able to watch someone get the help they need right. and then come back together again,
Absolutely.
right? Once you've seen that growth, that change, and that the happiness can really be there. It says a lot that you all were together so long before you got married,
exactly.
right? And then you talked about the 12 years. So when you decided that, you know, it was time for you to break things off, mm-hmm. right? That you had enough. Something pushed you to that point. What got you the courage? You know, you had your mom, you had everybody telling you shouldn't be doing this. Why are you doing this? What was it that gave Kathy the courage to say, now is the time?
I got a message. Look, so actually, when I got to a place where, you know, it wasn't even a place of saying, you know, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Mm-hmm. But of course I was. And I spent the whole 12 years trying to get out of the marriage. But every single time, you know, God always put someone in place to talk me out of it, say, just giving a word. And because of where I was in my faith at the time, I knew that I never, I didn't grow up in church or anything like that. But it was just a different experience, and I knew something spectacular was happening for me in that space. I couldn't explain it, but I knew. But actually, there was an incident that caused us to have to go our separate ways. And even though he didn't want to, but we had to at that point. So God could deal with him and he could get his life together, which was, that was an attack. So he almost took my life. And it was just a normal, well, to me, it was a normal night of having a loud discussion, right?
Those conversations.
Right, those type of conversations, but you shrug it off and you're going about your business and, but it didn't go that way, that particular night. And so once we went through all the processes of me having to go to the hospital, we went through court dates and all those things. And so, I was like, okay, yeah, we need to go our own separate ways. And so that was really the straw that just broke the camel's back. Mm-hmm.
It's, I appreciate you sharing that from the perspective that, a lot of women, go through these things and there does come a point when it's like, I can't take anymore, right? We all pray that it's never physical, that it's never anything that harms us. But when that straw breaks, having that courage to actually do it. And it takes a lot to do it, especially when you have to take care of yourself at that point. We're going to take a station break and we'll pick up with the conversation when we come back. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
Welcome back. So, Kathy, you said that, you knew that God was working with him and was working with you.
Mm-hmm.
What happened that made it come back together? When did you feel, what was it that made you feel that there really are changes and that I'm ready to even engage in this kind of conversation again with them?
Absolutely. Well, it began with me watching how he really had to lose everything. He lost everything. He lost his family. He lost his job. He lost his vehicle, just everything. So he was like at rock bottom. And no, I did not feel sorry for him. I mean, like, no. But I knew it was a process that he had to go through, right? And so I said, I'm just going to watch. And I had no intention of getting back together, right? But the one thing that he did do was he stayed close by. He stayed around. He wouldn't, it was so funny, he wouldn't hardly let a lot of people in my space. I didn't do a lot and go out a lot anyway, but just watching him and watching the changes, right? And so, and just really still helping him on his feet because, again, he wasn't a bad guy. He just had a bad thing going. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I know that God told me after he got out of jail, he did have to go to jail because he broke probation. And when he got out, it was just said, do not let him suffer, and I'm like, what in the world does that mean? But anyway, just watching him and just allowing him the space to gain his relationship with God, with his family, bringing everything back full circle. And the talks just began because he couldn't, there was a restraining order, so he couldn't come around, right? Mm-hmm. And so just over the years, we became cordial because, of course, we had a son together too. Mm-hmm. And just those things and just watching how the process of his life changing and it just happened naturally. So it was nothing that I was trying to force or nothing that he was forcing on me. It's just us coming back together. And I just realizing that the story wasn't over. So just the story that had to be told. And just for people who are in certain, similar situations, right? And just letting them know just what could be going on. And so what I realized, and I just say this real quick, is that, there were some things that were going on in his past, and me discovering my gifts and then beginning to understand his gifts, we were able to unravel and unlock some things that he can get some healing.
Did you all go to counseling together?
Actually, no, separately.
So you both went to counseling,
Right.
To try to get through this. It's we all know that addiction is a disease.
Yes.
And it's one of the worst diseases we can have because it's something that's out of our control, right? And we have to get our bodies and our minds to a point to where we're going to overcome that addiction.
Exactly.
And overcome those challenges that we experience. And for you to bring this back full circle, and for you all to have this relationship, you had to get rid of restraining orders. You had to do things to make this possible. Were you ever scared?
Never. And that's one thing, I remember the judge asked me that question. She said, are you afraid of him? And I said, no, I'm not. And but one thing I just told her that he just has a problem. And if we could just get him some help for that problem. Because I did not realize that drug addiction was a disease. And when people would tell me that, I was like, that makes no sense to me. All he has to do is just say no. But it wasn't that easy.
No.
But I didn't find that out until after we had divorced. And at the time, I went back to school. And so I went back to college and began to do, that's really where my healing became, where my healing came, is because I started doing research on drug addiction. And just to find out all the information that I did, it helped me to understand a lot better what he was going through.
And it's you are so right. So many people don't understand that it is a disease. And we talk a lot about mental and emotional, instability. And, that addiction can trigger those things in a minute, especially because we all have a chemical makeup, right? And you don't know what those things are doing to your chemistry that makes you respond that way,
Exactly.
and to act out. So now you got remarried.
Yep.
Right? Did you have a big wedding?
No. I'm like, forget all that. No, ma'am. Let's save that money. We got things to do. We have to rebuild.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a small, intimate ceremony with family and friends.
Good. So now that you all are back together, how was it having him back in the home again when it first started?
Well, you know what? We kind of eased into it because he got a job that was one of his dream jobs. And I'm like, whoever likes driving that much, okay. But he became an over-the-road truck driver. So it was easier to kind of bring us back together in the same space. And so it was pretty cool. He was out on the road and he would come home on the weekends. And so that lifestyle became comfortable for me. Right? And then, so when he was like, you know what, I want to be home more. I'm like, you sure about that? And so he was like, yeah. So, but now it just turned out to be awesome.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to take a station break. When we come back, we're going to see if there's a question or a comment from the audience.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
Welcome back. So, Kathy, y'all back in the household together.
Girl, we back
right?
in the house. We back together.
And he's not driving a truck. Because I'm going to tell you, there's something to that secret of keeping a marriage when you see him only on the weekends. My husband was a consultant when we first got married. And he traveled Sunday through Thursday, and we only saw each other on the weekends. Boy, you picked what arguments you wanted to have. You enjoyed yourself because they were getting ready to leave again, right? And my sister used to tell me, you got the great recipe for a great marriage, right? And it was that way for the first 10 years of our marriage. And thank God we just celebrated 25 years together.
Awesome, congratulations.
25 years. But, it's one of those things that adjustment, I would tell you, when he came back home full time,
I know.
I was like, wait a minute, somebody got to go take a trip. Which one of us got a project to go to? because this is not working. How did you all do it?
Well, when he decided that he was going to come off the road, really, it did take a lot of prayer for me. I'm like, oh my God. But because I'm telling you, what has made the difference in my life is discovering my gifts. And so I am a certified gift coach, right? And so with that understanding mine, it helped me to understand his and, learning to teach that. And so I knew when to step aside, give him his space, when we felt like, being in the same room together and realizing that we cannot watch the same the channels, movies or whatever. But we had that happy medium. We decided we had to make a date leaving in the house when we're going to watch TV together. What we're going to watch. We're going to watch a movie tonight. Do I need to just grab my computer and go on about my business? What do we need to do? And so just communicating about it. And so it was just really just that simple.
Well, I have to laugh because my husband and I do the same thing. It's like he'll come home and it's like, okay, we're going to watch TV together tonight.
Right.
Okay, what we going to watch, right? And then if it's like, no, I got to go do something, he'll say, well, I watch my shows as on TV tonight,
right.
Because it is, it's that
That's
divide
right.
and conquer and recognizing
exactly.
that everything you like, I don't like, and everything I like, you don't like, and it's okay.
It is okay. So when we come together, what are we going to watch?
Exactly.
And so,
exactly.
So
And be there
good.
as one. Let's see if we have a question or a comment from the audience.
Miss Kathy, you have a journey of walking by faith and taking care of others. I'm curious, how do you exhibit self-care?
Wow. That's a great question, by the way. Because for a long time, I wouldn't exhibit self-care, because I was so busy taking care of everybody else. And it just became the norm. And so I didn't even realize that I wasn't taking care of myself the way that I could and should. And so what I started doing was just thinking about the things that I really like. And one of the things is I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's good for me. I love to eat. Right? I love to eat. And so I just venture out, with different things, with different types of food, right? And would do that, guys. I kept it in moderation so I would not be as big as my house. But not only that, I put in place of going to a massage therapist, not just a regular massage, but a massage therapist that would really dig into my muscles, that makes me relax. And we don't really realize a lot of the issues that we have going on inside of our bodies, or even with our attitudes or whatever, has a lot to do with what's going on. We don't realize that a lot of things are just out of alignment. And so my self-care was chiropractic care, massage therapy, and food. Great food.
But that it's always important to understand what gives us that calm, right? And how do we get that calm? How do we get ourselves to the point where we are on, whole? Because your cup got to get full somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, I need that self time to be able to do that. And it's great that you're doing that. You said that you are, that it was really about knowing your gifts and you're a gift coach. And just in a few minutes, I would love for you to tell people what a gift coach does and how do you get that?
Wow. Girl, when I first found out about it, well, not that there was one, I just learned about the gifts and learning that 2% of the world of people don't even know it exists. And so when I found out about, my gifts and by reading this book called Discover Your God-Given Gifts, and I found out about I emailed the author and just like, oh my God, do you guys teach this? And so I actually was a part of the last weekend seminar that they did training people to discover gifts and to teach other people. So I was the last of the Mohegans, right? And so just learning about those 7 gifts and finding out my top 3. And that's how I understood what my husband's gifts were. It was immediately like the same weekend that I finished the class. And just understanding just through problem areas of how he was acting and responding to different things and how people respond and act. And just what makes you tick. Just finding out the awareness of authentically who you are and why you act and do the things that you do. All of those things are part of discovering your gifts. And it is amazing. And it is the thing that actually turned my whole life around, my whole life. And I was able to embrace who I am instead of who, people think I ought to be.
You know, it's interesting that, when we can always take what we're doing, when we can take the things that bring us joy and share it with the world.
Absolutely.
Right? That passion, that joy is what makes it happen.
But I'm going to tell you, that is the byproduct of understanding and why understanding what your gifts are. When you are operating in joy, you are absolutely operating in a space where you're gifted. Authentically, naturally.
And that's why I think that those gifts are equal to passion, right? Because when you're passionate about it and it's something that you want to do, it's not hard work.
It is not hard work.
It's joy. It's easy. You love doing it and
Exactly.
making it happen. So it's good to know that does exist.
It does.
Right?
It's a thing.
And that it's a
whole
real thing,
Mhm.
right? And that there is a whole methodology around it. So if people are interested in it and understanding more about that it does exist.
Yes.
Audience, can you thank me? Can you thank my guest, Kathy Hood, for being here today?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now, where we do what? We provide joy and hope. Talk to you soon.